Happy New Year, everyone. I hope that 2024 is off to a fantastic start for you. So I wanted to share 3 lessons from 2023 because I think it's really important to reflect on the past year in order to help you move forward in the next year. So often we can repeat the same year over and over, and we find ourselves triggered by the same people. We find ourselves engaged in the same unhealthy behavior. We find ourselves stuck. In order to be the best versions of ourselves, we need to take time and figure out, what is it that I learned in the last year? I don't know about the rest of you, 2023 completely kicked my keister. It was a challenging year, and I know that's true for many for various reasons. For me, there were number of different lessons. I'm going to share 3 of them that stood out. And the first is expectations equal future resentments. I happened to meet a facilitator for Al-Anon. He led a group for new members. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Al-Anon, it's an extension of AA, which is Alcoholics Anonymous. Al-Anon is specifically a support group for family members who have been impacted by someone's drinking, whether it was in the past or whether it's in the present. This particular gentleman said, I had these expectations that my wife would stop drinking. And every time she said, this is it, I'm going to get sober. And then I would find bottles hidden in the house, or she would return from book club when she was really at the bar, or she would wake up with yet another hangover that impacted our family's activities. I found myself resentful of her. What he said is, I had to figure out, how could I just accept where my wife was at on her own journey and release expectations of her no longer drinking. And so this guy joined Al-Anon. He started doing his own work, and his wife actually ended up joining AA, and she eventually did stop drinking. But what's interesting is this guy, he felt so much more content with the situation and his wife's drinking once he really did his own work and he just let go of those expectations. I think this can be so powerful because so often we go through life, and whether it's with family members or whether it's friends or strangers, we can often have expectations that they say the right thing, that they act a certain way, that they give us attention. And whether or not you have someone in your life who is struggling with addiction, I think we can all relate to often having very unrealistic expectations of people. What I realized in this past year is that I really needed to accept people for who they are, knowing that they may never change. I just feel so much more at peace in knowing that there's certain people who may or may not be interested in kind of looking inward and doing their work. However, what I can control is doing my own work and being the person that I really want to be in this world. The second lesson is somewhat related to the first lesson, and it's around surrendering and how much peace you can experience when you simply let go. I would say the lesson number 1 has to relate more to people. Lesson number 2 is more in how you relate to life. And specifically for me, I found that I was grasping and I was clinging. I was wondering why results were not happening. I had accepted a job offer back in April, and unfortunately, it did not manifest the way I thought it would. The situation was completely out of my control, had nothing to do with me personally, but I just found myself wanting to really control how things were unfolding. I'm reminded of the saying, whether or not it's clear to you, the universe is unfolding as it should. I don't know why this particular job offer hasn't panned out the way I would like, but I'm just trying to be open and accept what is coming into my life, even though it may not look the way that I would like. And so I highly recommend, if you're interested in learning more about surrendering, to read Michael Singer's book, The Surrender Experiment. This book was so incredibly enthralling. I got through it in a few days. So Michael is, I would say, a spiritual teacher. However, he was a very successful businessman. Just a bit about his life. In 1971, he had a spiritual awakening. At the time, he was pursuing a PhD in economics, and he wanted to just go to the woods and meditate and do yoga. Life had other plans for him. He ended up founding his own software company, becoming the CEO of a billion-dollar publicly traded company. And I just found his story fascinating because he had never coded a day in his life, had never taken a computer science class, and yet he had this creative inspiration to develop software that completely revolutionized the medical billing system. What Michael talks about is there were so many times when he just wanted to say no to life. He basically was like, just leave me alone. I want to be in the woods. I want to do my yoga. I want to meditate. That's what I want to do. Then opportunities would come, and he realized he had to surrender and say yes to life. I think what we can learn from Michael is to be very careful as to what stories we're telling ourselves, how much of a black and white perspective we have about our lives. Are we immediately reacting to what life presents with us without just being curious? And so a situation that I'll share from my own life happened in my late 20s. I talk about my dark night of the soul. I was really yearning to move from the Midwest to the West Coast, and I was pretty set on joining a startup or a smaller company. As fate would have it, a recruiter found my resume and she contacted me about an opportunity at a large tech company in Seattle. My immediate reaction was no. Why? Because I didn't see myself at a big company. I didn't think I would survive. I worried. I had so much fear. I had never worked at a big company. And so this recruiter, Gretchen, if you're watching, by the way, you're fantastic. I'm so grateful for you. This recruiter, Gretchen, she was so persistent. She's like, Colleen, just have a conversation. It won't hurt. You're not accepting an offer. Just let's learn more about this opportunity. And so I did. That conversation turned into an offer. Moving from the Midwest to Seattle, joining the tech company, completely changed the course of my life. And I realized I actually like working at a large company. I kind of joke with people, you can either be a monk and meditate in a cave for 18 hours a day, or you can join corporate America. Let me tell you, your ego is checked on a daily basis, and you're also dealing with big and small egos as well. You grow tremendously. That is an example where I really encourage coaching clients to stay open to possibilities, because you never know what may come about. So the third lesson I learned is around the importance of serving others and how much joy it can bring to your life. What I realized is volunteering has always been a core of who I am. It's one of my values. And yet I wasn't volunteering for years and years when I lived in the Bay Area and I worked in tech. And so when I made a change and I relocated to Colorado about 1.5 years ago, I realized I need to fill this void. I need to start volunteering again. So I signed up to volunteer at a homeless shelter close to where I live. And I would have to say that the experience has really just lifted my spirits. I feel part of the community. I have met people that I would have never met before. It's really been such a positive influence on my life. I encourage all of you to think about, how can I give back? How can I serve others in whatever way that looks like? It could be big or small. And I'll actually share an article published by the Mayo Clinic that talks about 3 benefits of volunteering. Number 1, volunteering can help improve both your physical and your mental health. Number 2, volunteering gives you a sense of purpose and meaning. And number 3, you're able to nurture new relationships as well as existing relationships. And it's interesting because I recently had a conversation with one of the fellow volunteers. She's in her 60s. She retired and she really was struggling. She said, Colleen, I felt depressed. I didn't know what my purpose in life was. My kids were raised or out of the home. And she said, I decided to sign up to volunteer with 3 different organizations in the area. And she said, it's really made such a difference in my depression. helping me wake up and realize that I have a purpose greater than myself. And she said, I was kind of immersed in my stuff. I was like, woe is me. Here I am. I'm feeling lonely and I don't know what to do. I'm no longer working. I don't feel like a mother anymore, even though obviously she still is, but not raising her kids in the household. You know, it was such a powerful story. And I think that we can all do our part to make the world a better place. So on that note, I'm really excited for all of you to move forward into 2024, becoming a better version of yourself. And I want to thank you all for watching. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. And I want to hear, what did you learn in 2023? And how will that help you change the way you go about life in 2024? Take care, everyone. Until next time.